hmm You know, just looking through this index, I'm not finding the word pecuniary. Yes. I do find what is known as due process. Yeah. hmm And the idea that you don't have to defend due process, landlord, juries, hmm malpractice by minors, insurance agent, intent, deliberate interfering with personal rights, property rights. Now, I would think that there's some pecuniary damages available for intent. Yeah. Page 83. Mm. Now, let's say you intended, yes, to make it look like I was a domestic abuser, yes, a child abuser, and you fabricate a false police report, yes, and then you file the dissolution of marriage with the intent of making it look like I was violating the restraint provisions. Yes. Now it could be as a third party that Healthy Families of Clallam County. Yeah. hmm You're getting sued for interfering in the custody rights of a parent. Now, whomever it was that called the police 20 days after I had contacted them, yeah, there's a considerable amount of tort liability. Yes. hmm When you injure me, because of your false police reports of attempting to contact the petitioner through a third party. Now, I know the county's going to want to really consider today that I should have never went to court. I was just waiting for the probation to end. Yes, so that my court arrest and record from Guam would be expunged. Yes, so that I could talk to my wife and kids. Yes. But you decided to make up a malicious act that caused me a considerable amount of harm. Yes, because I had to go through a jury trial where I was found not guilty. Now, a person who is proved to have committed a tort would be held responsible for all the damage proved to have resulted from their act. Yes, that would be Leslie Bond, the Sheriff's Department. How much money do you have today? Let's see. I wasn't in Sequim, Washington on December 31st of 2015. And for each of you that got paid for the show, yes, have committed a tort will be held responsible for the damages proved that resulted from the act of issuing the fraudulent traffic citation. Yes, the falsification of my state issued identification. And then there's the intent of having committed a tort that held responsible for the damages resulted from your act. Now there's my prosecution. Yes. And then there's the possibility of a fraudulent email that was sent. Yes. And then there was the fraudulent mental health evaluations. Yes. And then there was the fraudulent dismissal of the case for incompetence. How much money do you have? Now, these torts, I'm going to want to use that court, and I would like to have my sons today. Yes. And then I want to talk to Marilyn about the tort damages of interfering with her custody. Yes. When you used a picture of Susan Bowers in a Rotary newsletter. Then I want to talk to her about Foursquare International and their property ownership right now. How much money do you have? Now, there's a lot of tort liability for the damages that I've received. When I emailed you 3 million emails, yes, and you said I was a mentally ill homeless man that didn't have any right to have enforced the laws of the United States. Now, I do think we have some of these elements. Yes, the intentional torts of false arrest, assault, battery, and libel, nuisances, trespassing on my personal property. Is there any inheritance that I've been obstructed from receiving? See, my grandmother died in 2017. Yeah. And I emailed you, FBI, about elder abuse. And how my relatives had taken all her personal items and not included me, yes, in her estate. Now, I thought there was some elder abuse lawsuits that I did need to document because, as her only grandson and her eldest grandson, nobody has actually told me what happened to all her personal property. And I thought she was somewhat well to do. She had some insurances. And that place in Auburn, ooch, and all those personal items. Yes. Now, let's say that you intentionally did not involve me in the estate of my grandmother. Yes. That happened to be a trust. That was signed in 1991. Yes. Did somebody want to tell me what happened to? Well, where is Eunice Condit? She died in 2017, and I had emailed the police and sheriff's departments. Well, I'd like to know what happened to her estate. And then there was the estate in Arizona. Yeah. Edward Budnick. Oh, is there any possibility that there's a large amount of water missing that happened to belong to me? Yes. I thought your Huachuca down there in Yuma, yes, had, well, really falsified. It was a fraudulent probated estate. Yes. Where somebody said, well, we don't have to notify Clara or Paul Douglas Budnick of the deceased. Yes. And one of the sons of Edward had traveled to Arizona and moved the body back to Ohio. Yes. Does anybody know where the water in Arizona is? Now, Alton Cheney. Is there a relation to the Dick Cheney? Yes. The former vice president of the United States of the George W. Bush family? That had signed into law numerous legislation that makes it terrorism? Yes. And the financial support of terrorism when there's a refusal to defend the Constitution of the United States. Somehow I'm thinking that there's quite a few generals and admirals that are going to lose their decorations. Now, I know it's important to you because you've been vetted. Ouch. But I thought when emailing generals and admirals of the United States, yes, that every time you took a command that you did swear that you would defend the Constitution of this nation. Now, maybe General Joseph Dunford, yes, the commander of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, yeah, maybe you don't need those 4 stars. See, in my mind, they're just declarations, decorations. Yes. See, any general of the United States, I just want you to understand General Joseph Dunford. They're decorations. You having any knowledge of treason means that you lose them all, except for maybe that Purple Heart if you were really injured during a time of war. Now, for the generals of the United States Marine Corps, all 1 to 4 star, yes, your knowledge of treason against this nation means that you lose your decorations. Now, quite often, if you don't have those decorations at the time of retirement or while in retirement, it causes a decrease in the available amount of retirement. See right now. I know. You thought that pension was guaranteed. You thought for sure for the rest of your fucking